Commenting within a story now all takes place in the Comments side panel, which is accessed through this Head and Shoulders icon here on the toolbar. There's no longer a panel inside each item, so now if you click on a particular item and open it up, you won't see a comments panel in here, and you won't have the opportunity to add one either as a global panel or a local panel. Initially you'll be given a little message here indicating that you can now comment through the side panel. So when I open that side panel, what we'll see initially is a filtered list of all of the comments that relate to the actual item that we've got open. At the moment there are no comments specifically about this item, and if I close the item, you'll see that the panel on the right will now revert to showing us all of the comments across our story. So here we can see that there are comments made against product B1, product A7 and so on. And we can click on any of those comments in the normal way and it will open up the item. So if I click on this comment about B1, you'll see it opens up comment item B1, and now the comment feed reverts to showing just the comments made against this particular item. Now if you're using SharpCloud for Enterprise, there's an added benefit of having all of your comments in this panel on the right, and that is that you can see comments not just made in this particular story against item B1, but you can also see comments made against the same item but in other stories that share the item. So in short, one of the benefits of SharpCloud for Enterprise is that you can reuse or share items across stories, and that means that depending on your privileges, in this case I've got access both to this lower level story indicated by this icon and to the current story. So depending on your access to a combination of stories that use the same item, you'll be able to see comments made across all of those stories against that same item. Now when I just close down that item, you'll notice that the comments panel on the right will revert back to showing all of the comments made against this story. Now when it actually comes to posting a comment against the story, you can decide whether or not that comment goes as an email automatically to anyone who's subscribed to the story. You may decide not to send it as an email, which is now the default, but you can still have it posted to the particular story. So in this case, if I put in a comment and I click send, that comment will only be added to the story. It won't be sent automatically as an email to anyone who's subscribed, but it will be included in the digests that people may have subscribed to through their profile to receive on a daily or a weekly basis. But the key thing is you can decide whether or not the comment requires you to check this box, i.e. to be emailed straight away, or whether you're happy for it to be just something that people consume within the story and or through the weekly or daily digests. With the removal of the comments panel from within the items themselves, any presentations that previously pointed to a comments panel within an item will now revert to showing the first panel within that item. Another enhancement to this latest version is that you can now search on your dashboard for any comments made across any of the stories that you have access to. And you can also search for items as well. So that that sort of adds to the existing capability that you've previously had around stories, forms and teams and directories. But if we look at comments first, if I click on the comments option and I type in decision, what you'll see is I see that comment that I've just made, which is here, listed on my dashboard, and I can click it to go into the particular story that it relates to, but I also see any other comments that include the word decision. I can also maybe sort of just focus that in on a particular topic like drones, and here it filters down to show me the one comment in the stories that I have access to that mentions the word drones. So a really nice capability to be able to search across all of your stories for comments including certain words. As I mentioned, that ability to search on your dashboard also includes the ability to search across your items. So if I type in technology refresh here, I filter down to see the 3 items across all of the stories that I've got access to that include the term technology refresh either in their name or description. and I can hover over each of them and see which story they come from. So the high level strategy story, the interactive project report, or the dashboard story, and I can again click on any of these items to take me directly into the story. I can also just open the item directly from this quick access menu here on the dashboard. Another enhancement to the dashboard is that now within the Community tab, which is where you can search for all your teams and directories, in any of those teams, when you open them up, all of the stories in that team now have a context menu that allows you to open them independently in new windows and perform certain other operations on them. In the data grid, which is accessible to owners and admins on a story, we've now made the external ID one of the default fields that always shows in the datasheet. But more than that, we've given you the option under the Select Columns button to not just choose which fields you want to show, but also reorder them, and also save that as a configuration that will apply to this story every time you come to the data grid. So in this way you can decide for the story that you own what fields you want to be displayed and in what order. The URLs used in what we call click events, which jump you to another view in the same story, those click events are now expressed as a relative URL, not an absolute one. This allows you to more easily move a SharpCloud story from one instance to another, say from your on-premises instance onto our multi-tenant cloud, with each of the click events retaining their link to the internal view that you wanted it to go to. So if I just quickly show you the click event on this existing item. Initially this click event was specified as an absolute URL where you can see it's pointing to the SharpCloud instance and the particular story ID and so on. Now if I clear that URL and put it back in by linking to the view I want it to jump to, you'll see that the URL is now expressed in a relative sense, i.e. it just goes to a view within the current story and it doesn't include the full path to the instance or the story. So this just means that you can migrate these stories from one instance to another whilst retaining that internal linkage. Now any existing URLs that you've got will not be changed, so you will have to change those individually if you're looking to move stories across instances. The panels that you define within your story at a story level have now been separated out into what we call both global panels and default panels. Default panels are the types of panels that every story will contain and will contain one of. So that's a title panel, a resource panel, tags panel and a relationship panel. Now these cannot be deleted from your story, but they can be managed in the normal way where you decide whether they apply to your categories or not. Any panels that you want to add specifically, any other global panels, you now see on the global panels tab here, and that includes all the types of panels that you've always been able to add, and these are ones that you can delete as needed, and you can create multiple instances of, such as multiple text panels or multiple attribute panels. The reason for separating the panels onto these two tabs is simply to support the way that SharpCloud for Enterprise works. However, if you're not using SharpCloud for Enterprise, there's no change in the way that these panels function. They've simply been split into two separate tabs. We've made some improvements to forms. Forms are a way of capturing new items into your story, and we've now allowed you more control over the order of the attributes and tag groups that you use within your form design. So you'll see here that we can have a number of different tag groups selected, and we can organize them and order them however we want. Also, when that form is being used and being filled in, there's also now a character counter which tells the user how many characters have entered, and also as they approach or exceed a certain threshold, in this case 50 characters for the name field, it will tell them that they're now over the recommended limit. And as they proceed further, that character limit will, or character counter will turn red to indicate that now they're beyond, in this case, 200 characters, and that comment or the last few characters will get truncated if they don't cut it down themselves.